Okay, Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas. You've heard this, this poem before multiple times. Most recently, I think it was on a video game, maybe for the WWE, the newest WWE game. They were quoting the poem in the background with the players or the wrestlers. They were showing flashing images of the wrestlers. It was also recently last year on a commercial for a medical, something to do with heart. I can't quite recall. So this is actually very popular in pop culture as well. I'm going to talk just really quickly before we read and discuss the poem about the form. So it's a French form. It's called a villanelle. It's a very complicated form, very strict. It has 19 lines. It has 5 3-line stanzas. And the end stanza is a 4-line stanza. We call those 3-line stanzas tercets. And we've already talked about the 4-line stanza being called a quatrain. It's written in iambic pentameter, which is a popular meter. Shakespeare's sonnets are written in iambic pentameter. That means that for every line, there are 10 syllables, 5 pairs of syllables, and every other syllable is stressed. So it's unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. Okay, the rhyme scheme here is A, B, A for all of the tercets, and A, B, A here for the quatrain at the end. So let's read the poem and then we'll just break it down into its pieces. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So just a little background here. Thomas's father, who was blind when he wrote this poem, is actually on his deathbed. He's dying. And he's using this poem to give voice to what he wanted to say to his father, that he was unable to say, I guess, in person. So we've got quite a few things that we want to break down here. We have the repetition of the phrase, rage, rage against the dying of the light, and do not go gentle into that good night. That's 3 times for rage, rage, and 4 times for rage, rage against the dying of the light, and do not go gentle, we see 5. So there within itself is powerful because the repetition of those phrases over and over again, we know how important those 2 phrases are to him. So what he's saying by that is, do not go gentle into that good night. Do not just willingly accept death, which is that good night, right? The final good night. And then rage, rage against the dying of the light. Fight. Rage, rage. Be angry. Be angry with what's happening to you. Okay, so we see all the anger and all the power and all the madness and all the frustration that he has here in this poem. It literally goes from the depths of the ocean to the tallest peak. These are all grand aspects of nature. We have the ocean We have the mountain. We have these grand nature aspects. And it's almost like he is showing his father all the things in life that he won't see again, these powerful images. He's literally saying all this at the bedside of his dying father. You have several metaphors for death. You have that good night, you have the dying of the light, and you have close of day. So those metaphors for death, they're just personify death in a way, or not personify really. They illustrate death in a way that is more poetic and easier to stomach than just saying death. Don't fight death. Do not go gentle into death. And it's symbolic then that it's always, those metaphors for death are always at the end of a tercet or a quatrain. So you have dying of the light, you have dying of the light, that good night, dying of the light, dying of the light. That's symbolic because it's at the end of life here. It's at the end of the tercets and the quatrains. Thomas classifies men into 4 categories to show his father that no matter the choices they made in life, all men face the same fate, which is death, but there is reason to live. So wise men, which is the first one, wise men know that death is fate and that they should accept it. They know that dark is right. But because they have not achieved enough, their words have not forked enough lightning or no lightning, they want to leave a mark. They still have life left to do. They want to leave their mark before they go. Good men are few, obviously. They're their last wave, right? But they want to leave their names written down in history. Their frail deeds. How bright their deeds could have danced in a green bay. They could have been remembered. They wanted to be remembered. Wild men spent their life in action. They caught and sang the sun in flight, and they learned too late that they are mortal. They've wasted their lives on adventures and excitement. They need to change that before they go into that good night. And then grave men, which is also a metaphor. Grave for grave, obviously, but grave also means very serious. They're physically near death, which is where the pun comes in there. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight. They still have a spark, even though they have blind eyes. Those blind eyes could blaze like meteors. So they are still, even though they're physically near death, they should fight against the dying of the light. And then he turns it back to his father. He says, he's gone through all these men and they're all doing the same thing. They're fighting for more time. And so he wants his father to do the same. He says, and you, my father, there on that sad height, that edge, he says, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Be angry at me, love me for it, but please do not go gentle into that good night and rage against the dying of the light. He's angry with his father. He's sad. He's grieving already. And so his tone or attitude towards death is he's angry. He wants his father to fight. Don't accept what's happening to you. Every man wants more time. And you should do the same. Don't leave. Fight. Rage against the dying of the light. Don't go gentle into that good night. And so we see that very clearly through his word choice, through his diction, through the imagery that he puts out for us, those metaphors of death. And it's a very powerful piece of literature.